The IEP was first introduced in 1975 by a federal act that mandated that all students should have a free and appropriate public education. Prior to this date, most students that had disabilities were excluded from education. Hey y'all, welcome back to the SpEd Auntie channel, your resource for all things special education. If you're new here, I'm Danielle Williams. I'm a former educator turned certified educational diagnostician and art committee manager. And I'm here to help you understand special education and the process of getting your child support. So today we're going to do a deep dive into the IEP, or the SpEd Bible, as I like to call it, and we'll get an understanding of all of the things that are included in the IEP. Now, let me give you a disclaimer. This is not all-inclusive because it is an individualized education plan. Some students might have more things in their IEP or less. So in the special education world, there's a whole different language that is used. It's filled with all of these acronyms. And prior to 15 years ago, when my own child needed to receive speech therapy, I didn't know what any of this stuff meant. You couldn't tell me what ARD meant, or IEP, or IDEA, or any of the other SpEd alphabet soup. I can remember in the very first ARD meeting, or some people refer to it as IEP meeting, but I remember sitting in the conference room at a table surrounded by other knowledgeable people, and I just smiled and nodded. Oh yeah, okay, you understand? Yes, I didn't have a clue of what those people were talking about, but what I did know was that I wanted my son to get the support that he needed for speech. So today, I'm gonna tell you 12 key important items that can be found in your child's IEP. We're going to break down what they mean, and hopefully I can help you be in a better position than I was in 15 years ago. For the first part of the IEP, we're going to talk about the PLAF. Some people refer to it as present levels. So think about the PLAF as the starting point. This tells us where your child is academically, behaviorally, and socially, where we are right now. So in the PLAF, you'll have information from your child's teachers. You'll have data about their test scores, about their current activities and behaviors in school. The second thing we're going to discuss is their annual goals. So these are the goals that are written up based on your child's weaknesses, their areas of improvement. So your goal could be focused on reading, it could be focused on behavior, but it has to be something that is measurable because it's going to be looked at annually. So it's the entire year that we're looking at your students' progress towards achieving a said goal. Next, we're going to talk about related services. So these are additional services that your child may be eligible to receive, like speech, occupational therapy. Sometimes there's transportation services. There are different extra services, sometimes outside of the classroom, sometimes in the classroom, that your child is able to receive to help better support them in the school environment. This fourth one is a big one: accommodations and modifications. Firstly, they're not the same thing. So accommodations are extra supports that the child needs to be successful in the school environment, in the classroom environment. So this could look like extra time on an assignment or a pencil grip when they're writing. Those are considered accommodations. Now, modifications is when the special education teacher will modify the assignment, will modify the content or the curriculum to the student's level of understanding. So those are huge ones. You'll see a section that says accommodations and modifications, and typically they list them one by one and checks or bullet points so you can learn what your child is receiving in the actual classroom environment. Next is supplementary aids. So sometimes a student will receive extra supports in the classroom, like in the actual room. So maybe they have an aid that's a behavior chart, and then it lists little behaviors, or there's a time chart that lists times of what they have to do next. It's to help the child navigate the classroom and classroom expectations. So sometimes you'll have supplementary aids. Sometimes they're even given to the child. So they might have it stuck to their desk. They may have it stuck to their Chromebook. They may have it on their ID badge. They're just extra aids that help support the child. Okay, this is another big one. LRE. That stands for Least Restrictive Environment. The LRE details the amount of time that the child is spending in the general education classroom versus special education classrooms. So it could say that they're in a classroom with their peers 90% of the time, and then the other 10%, maybe they're in a pull-out or a small group. So that's what the least restrictive environment is. It just details what is the very, very least restrictive classroom that the child could be in, where they could still perform and work on their skills at the level that they are right now. Okay, and the seventh part we're going to discuss is the state and district testing. In this section, it's going to ask you, or the parent, is your child able to test in a non-restrictive environment? So are they able to perform their tests in the classroom without supports? And then it'll detail if they are, if they're not. If they are not, then it'll tell you what supports they need when they are taking those district or state assessments. For example, they may test in a small group classroom where there's a smaller group of students than their typical classroom. Or they may receive, text to speech. So they can have headphones and they can have text read to them. Maybe that is something that they receive on district and state assessments. It's all spelled out in this section. Another common one that we see is the BIP or the BIP. It's a behavior intervention plan. This is one of the ones that not all students receive supports for or have detailed in their IEP. It's based on the needs of the student. But if your student does have a behavior intervention plan, this is where they list the behaviors that the student is struggling with and different goals and things that we're using to help the student manage those behaviors appropriately. So in the schedule of services section, it lists what classes the students receive supports in and for how long and how many times a week. For example, it may list that the student receives support in English 1 for 45 minutes per day for 4 days per week. Another section in the IEP may include a transition plan. Now, this is for students 14 and up that are focusing on transitioning out of high school. So for our littles, we don't see this transition plan. But for our high school students and our teenagers, there's a plan that asks students what their goals are post-secondary. So they ask them about college, about career goals, about what they want to do, about how they're going to care for themselves, transition, all of those things, transportation and things like that. So it's all focused on post-secondary or after graduating high school. So earlier we talked about goals. So in this section, it's called progress monitoring. They monitor the students' progress towards the goal. So most students have a progress report time frame. It depends on if your school is on 6 weeks or 9 week report cards, but they're focusing on a certain time frame of progress being made towards the goal. Now, somewhere in the IEP, some people put it in the PLAF, sometimes it's other places. You have parent and student input. At some point during your ARD year, a committee manager or a DIAC, somebody's going to interview you and ask you questions regarding your child's behavior, regarding things that you're seeing them struggle with, questions that you have. So there's a section that includes that information. Some people include it in deliberations, where it addresses questions that the parents or the student or guardians may have had during the art meeting. But it is included, so we're all aware of what you asked and what was addressed. So that's the IEP in a nutshell. I know the documents can be long and confusing, and we didn't even cover every single thing because IEPs are individualized and they can be different. But this is the majority of what you would see in a standard IEP or individualized education plan. If you have any questions about the content that I just shared, drop a question down in the comment section below and I will answer it in my next video, or I might even chat with you in the comments. I hope this helped you guys, and make sure that if you like this type of content, please subscribe, like, and share this video, and I'll see you guys next time. In the meantime, remember, you are not alone, and I'm here to help you as your SpEd auntie.